Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Heather from ShareBird, a site where top product marketing leaders share their expertise. I'm really excited for today's event. We have a fantastic panel on mastering AI as a product marketing manager. I want to share a couple of announcements before the panel starts. First, the format for the event. The first half of the event will be questions from Alex, our moderator, and the second half will be live questions. There is a Q&A feature on Zoom. Go there to add your questions for the panel and share your questions right away so that others can upvote them. Second, our next Q&A panel event is October 23rd on mastering storytelling. The panel for that event are the VP of Product Marketing at Box and the VP of Product Marketing at Braze. We are working to confirm the third panelist for that event. You can register for that event at the link in the chat, which I will drop momentarily. And with that said, I'd love to hand it over to Alex and the panel to introduce themselves and get started.
All right. I'm so excited for this one. I'm just going to start by saying that. But as Heather mentioned, my name is Alex Lobert, longtime product marketer. Very excited to talk about AI, though, and listen to what the panelists have to say about AI. So, would you all like to start and maybe introduce yourself, where you work, what you do there, and maybe where you live? And I know, Chandra, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So, hello, everybody. I'm Chandra Patel. I'm a Senior Director of Product Marketing at Salesforce. I have actually done a lot of different roles in my product marketing career here. So, everything from kind of core product marketing to keynotes and portfolio messaging and managing upgrades. Right now, I oversee the kind of product marketing areas for one of our emerging businesses. That's super fun. So it's kind of trying to be scrappy at the big company. And then I'm also working on some of our agentic technologies. Um, I'm normally based in San Francisco, California. Right now, I am sitting in beautiful and lush North Carolina, evidenced by the trees behind me and also my allergies. So please bear with me for that.
All right. I don't know, Ben?
Yeah, hey, nice to meet everyone. So I'm a senior director of product marketing at Dropbox. I spent the last 10 years doing product marketing for either emerging products inside of large companies like SAP or Atlassian. I spent a little bit of time in early stage companies and I've been spending most of my time lately building an AI product. I've just recently left Dropbox and can't announce the next thing yet, but it'll be close to AI. And I am normally in California in the Bay Area. I am right now in Rome, as evidenced by the dark windows and horrible lighting.
Amazing. No one's in California today. Nisha, do you want to go next?
Also not in California. Hi, everyone. I'm Nisha Goklani. I am the Senior Director of Product Marketing at HubSpot. Been here for about 4 years now. Similar to Chandra, have had many lives in product marketing at HubSpot. I started off with our marketing portfolio and marketing hubs, and then moved on to our Service Hub portfolio. But I'd say for the past 2 years, have been leading all our AI efforts. So if you've heard of our Breeze tools, that's essentially coming from my team. I've also had many stints in product marketing. I actually accidentally fell into it, but have done product marketing at Intuit and Sage before as well. And that was in Asia Pacific. So I have a bit of feeling for both North America and Asia Pacific as well. And yeah, I mean, repatriated 4 years ago from Singapore to Houston, warm and sunny Houston. So that's where I'm at.
All right. Well, I'm so excited. So, some varied experiences, a number of different companies, all also probably using and working on AI. So that's also just probably an exciting twist of this conversation. But how about we dive into it? Because I feel like how to use AI is both magical and like a mysterious question. So again, very, very excited to learn from this group. But the first question is really about AI use cases. What's like the single highest ROI use case that has like leveled up product marketers in your org? And if you can, share an example. I can call on somebody or you can dive in.
I'll dive in
Okay.
actually. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to like talk specifically about the ROI yet because I'll be honest, we're still all learning. One of the things that I have observed both in my own practice as I am adopting AI as a PMM and then in my conversations and seeing how my team is delivering this work, it's in what I call the front end of PMM, where it's like, we are responsible for synthesizing so much information from our product teams and the market and feedback and just there's a lot always coming at us. And then what I would call at the like polishing end, where you're like polishing and amplifying, where you're like, I've done some work and some real thinking here, and how do I make it a little crisper? How do I make it a little tighter? And how do I actually turn this into a lot of stuff? So I think about it right now very much in these two kind of endpoints. And the first one, it was easy to start thinking about the latter, where you're like, oh, okay, very obvious. I got to write titles and abstracts for a big conference, and they have to be 60 and 200. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm at like 224. And it's like, these are the moments where I'm like the glamorous life of being a product marketer, right? Uh, and then asking AI to be like, hey, this is what I have. Can you rewrite this for me? So it's 200 characters. Can you do this? Can you give me 10 options of this? And it's the thought putter. It gets you there and it's less exhausting in that drag of things where I'm like, I could be spending time on something more powerful. So like that's just like a very simplistic example. Um, but the one that kind of surprised me and it took me a little while to get into is that thinking about this front end and how you synthesize a lot of information and how AI can ready more things for me so I can leverage my brain on the really value added. So the example that kind of it blew my own mind when I did it, I was in a day and a half offsite with our product team. And it was a lot of discussion. And yes, you have a note taker. And yes, things are going on the whiteboard. But my mind is always processing and thinking about like, what does this mean? What does this mean? This means this, this means this. So I just tend to have stream of conscious notes running. Oh, talk to this person. Oh, this is an aha, my ahas. So I just captured in a document all the ahas over that day and a half meeting. And then I asked AI, these were my ahas from this meeting. Can you summarize or synthesize these for me? I got back the most compelling list that clearly made helped me go, this is my action plan. This is what I have to educate my boss on. I had to make a case for the investment for me to travel for this because it was a global thing. And I was able to send that to my leader while I was sitting on the airplane, done. And they were like, what a great use of your time. Wow, it's so clear what we need to do. I was like, it was still all my thoughts and my insights, but that work of pulling it together and writing the update. I mean, I was like, wow, I'm so smart. Like I came off as so smart. And that to me, I'm trying to do more and more of that and encourage my team to do more of that. It's like, how can you use the AI to give you a head start? Not just to clean things up, but to give you a head start.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, using the synthesis powers are so strong. And it just allows you to take all your point, still your thoughts, but you're able to distill that and so much faster.
Yes.
Ben or Nisha?
I think I think you're so right, Chandra. It's like this speed up thing that happens that I think is incredibly valuable. I often refer to it as like the ratio of time in doc to quality has just improved exponentially. You know, if it was give a PMM a first crack at writing a blog post or drafting a press release and getting those key messages down from the blank page to like something worthwhile looking at has dramatically decreased. I think what comes with this though is like this kind of risk in my mind, and I think you got this, Chandra, of like it's about more frequently looking for those opportunities to use AI to speed something up versus doing more with AI. Like the headline message of like, hey, like we want you to adopt this tool, we see it as a technology, we see it as very additive to our work, doesn't mean do AI for all the things. And I think if we're really like honest and we look back over our last 6, 12, 24 months of having been playing with AI, we as PMMs, I expect, and my teams have all like dramatically decreased the amount of time they're spent on first drafts or refining messaging or whatever it might be. My question to the team is always, what have you done with that time? Are you spending that time talking to AI about other stuff? Like maybe that's helpful, but like truly your job at the end of the day is not how many documents did you produce, how many artifacts did we produce with quality. It is like how, like it's an exercise of alignment. So how are you a better expert of the product, expert and steward of the customer, and how is your understanding of like the market changed with all this extra time that you have? And it's almost never as a function of like going back and forth with Claude for 20 minutes about something.
Yeah, all of that really resonates. What I would say is we are starting right at like the starting point using it. So first of all, data and context. AI is only as important as like the data and context I found we give it. So in our instance, I put a lot of like my original, like this is my style, this is what I'm looking, this is who I am, this is how I communicate, and some documents and artifacts I've already created, like in the project itself, because I want to give AI just my like we call it express, but like that's your authentic voice. And then we use it for insights. I find like it's been a really good partner for me to plug into Gong, plug into Note Taker, as Chandra said as well. And it's almost like, hey, it helps me point out gaps. It helps me understand what really the customer is looking for. What are the pain points that they have? How are they talking about it? And so it gets you to a place of narrative design with those insights, right? Because you're no longer going from just creating a blank page like Ben talked about narrative design. You are coming in with those insights of what is actually landing for your customer. How are reps talking about certain things? Which calls are resonating? Where are they winning deals? And you're using all that data context to speed up your narrative design. And quite frankly, then it's able to create a first draft for you where you can then kind of put your own voice to. So I think that's how it helps us. Another way personally I like to use it is we work a lot with product managers. Very often they give us very technical requirements. So even using a coach with me and I'm like, oh my God, I got this technical, document. Like, what does this actually mean in simple terms? Like, how would I explain it to my customer? If I was a customer in this industry or this service, like how would this thing that the product teams build be of value to them? So it's almost like my coach as well in helping me articulate the use case of value, and as a starting point there as a thought partner.
Oh, all right. So many good insights already around the, the synthesis. And I love, Ben, your point about it's not about just making more docs. It's about how do you actually become a better steward for customers, again, better able to do your job of understanding the product and making it more valuable. All right. So we talked a little about use cases. I'd love to maybe dive into the tools, like the how of you doing this. So which AI tools have been like the most impactful for your organization? And you all are product marketing leaders. How have you decided what tools to pay attention to versus which to ignore and not invest in?
Yeah, I can kick us off. I think we are very like lucky in that we now are using ChatGPT and Claude and have access to both. I would probably say those are our two main tools that we're using at HubSpot. And marketers love Claude. Claude's something that where we actually put all our projects in. So any artifact that product marketing creates is put into different Claude projects, which helps with the reasoning engine and which helps them kind of give us results with that reasoning and information. We've also started, I'm personally using Gamma, because product marketers also spend a bunch of time in like presentation mode, right? And creating decks and docs. Gamma has been a really interesting one and like just trying to frame how you would put together the story and kind of give you that story in like a deck format as a starting point that then you can build out of. So I'd say those are probably the three we use every day.
And Gamma's AI PowerPoint creation. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Chandra, I see you come up mute.
Yeah, I think, one of the things of being at a big company, like we have kind of tools rolled out to us. So I recognize that my answers might be a little different compared to somebody that's at a much smaller organization. We lean very heavily on Gemini. I personally use it a lot because that's kind of like it's embedded in all of our meetings, it's embedded in like I think about all our docs and our doc creation. That's probably first and foremost as I'm thinking about my own projects and proprietary information. I do a lot of just kind of dabbling and playing around with Claude and with ChatGPT, especially as I'm thinking about like, what am I trying to learn from what's publicly out there? Just even sometimes I'm like, hey, I'm trying to find a stat and a interesting bit of information related to this. So I augment with that. Something else that I have used and I've seen some really creative use cases across our team of marketers is Notebook LLM, part of the Gemini suite. I mean, it's cool. And if we think about how are we actually communicating and delivering value to our sellers, a lot of people, they just want to listen to information. They don't want to review decks. They don't want to. So to be able to say, hey, I've got like 20 assets here. Can you give me a 15-minute podcast on the top insights and takeaways? Love. Like it's been great. I was at a Gartner conference earlier this year and had access to all of it, all of the assets. And I was like, okay, can we write, do a little notebook here on this? And I was able to share that with my fellow product marketers to help us think about our storytelling. So that was one where I was like, there's a lot of creativity here. I feel like I'm just scratching the surface.
Really cool way
Yeah,
to
I
share
don't.
information. Ben, oh, sorry. Ben, go.
No, you're all good. I was just going to offer. I think that you're right. It's like it's so often driven by, and I think I see a question in the chat already about this topic of like securing content. Like the value of the generative engine itself is somewhat commoditized, I would say. I don't think we're seeing a lot of like difference between the models as they're rolling out. But I think what is increasingly valuable, and we've learning, particularly with MCP picking up, is like it's the context and it's the connectivity of it. And so my teams are obviously using Dropbox Dash because that is connected to Dropbox and it's connected to their files and it's connected to a lot of the stuff that is rich context to support better answers and better use of an AI tool. But we're seeing the same thing across all of the different ecosystems. And I think we're starting to see the systems start to move in this way. I think as vendors and people building AI products, I think we're starting to become a lot more thoughtful about what are the systems of record that I might hold as an asset as a company, and how should I think about like exposing those systems to different AI tools or not. And I think we're starting to see this play out in the industry more closely. So really, I think everyone's kind of got their favorite like general AI tool, whether that's ChatGPT or Claude. I prefer ChatGPT, but for some reason I know a lot of marketers are very like Claude centric and said the copy it's better. I don't know. But I find probably more than half of what I'm doing with AI now is typically happening like within a system, and it's within a different application layer or a stack. Where it's probably one of those two on the back end anyway, but it's more often being like interacted with within an existing stack or system.
Yeah, and I love the point about context. I think, Ben, you obviously mentioned it, and Anisha, and the fact that obviously as you continue to provide the tools with more information, they kind of grow with you to some degree. Actually, really fast follow up there, and maybe for you, Nisha, have you seen that as your team is creating these projects, and all of your documents, you said you're going to Claude, correct? Like, how have you seen it? Is it becoming more valuable? Are you seeing like growth in the value of these tools? Oh, did I lose Nisha? Oh, no,
Oh, sorry. I'm
you're
on
on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, it's definitely becoming more valuable. And I think more than that, it's also it's helping scale other teams. So, like, for example, we have an enablement team that creates content. Like, product marketing is kind of the epicenter. right? We create your narrative, your positioning, your messaging, but then we have other teams, like maybe the social team or the enablement team or the media team that's creating different contexts for different services. It helps them as well create with all of that background information. So I would say it one helps us get to a better first draft with product marketers because it's taking it's trained in our tone of voice, our brand, our expression, and then it's enabling other teams as well to run faster by us putting our projects in there.
I love that. I think it's a really practical way to use it. And also just, again, it just portends to the future of where this is going to go. Okay, I have more questions here, but I'm gonna go on to the next one and maybe loop around to something a little later if we have time. Upskilling on AI. How are you actually helping your teams upskill? And is it training, experimentation, different hiring? Yeah. Who is creating this? How are you helping them learn? Who's creating this learning agenda? Because I feel like we all want to get better at this.
I can jump in here. I think very much now in this time in 2025, I'm becoming obsessed with the idea of like getting the work done as opposed to doing more work. I think like we're all starting to drown in AI slop in all of the different ways, and we come across these pages and even like Slack messages. I'm sure that's an AI thing, and it is starting to get in the way of the work that really matters. And I think we all need to I think we have done the work of like, hey guys, new technology, please go like mess around with it. And we now need to get to probably the more careful thought about where does this thing make sense and where is it really speeding me up and where is it a distraction? And I think what that means for me, particularly like at this point where the technology is at, it is so much more about moving from a world where the PMM in my team may be the expert on the product and the market and the customer. And we wrap that up in this individual who now has like great tools. And to your point, Nisha, like now they can start to scale other teams. But that PMM won't grow, I think, meaningfully until they create not just like a person, a personification of that understanding who can like sit in the meetings and write the documents and spar with a PM about like the value. But until they create the systems that embed that across the organization and help other teams to do their work and to do it grounded in all of that expertise that until now has been like centered in an individual, in a living person who can get hit by a bus. And so now it's all about systems of interaction and automation to get a job done where an artifact being generated or being reviewed or being sped up is but one step in the process. And so instead of here's the 30 artifacts that I have that I'm calling voice of customer for this month, and I want you to go through this and produce me a report, it is instead, how can I connect this thing to those different systems to be automatically pulling that information in, to automatically be summarizing it, and not just producing like a Confluence page that gets read by people, but proactively thinking about this insight in particular is for my sales team to help them sell better. This insight in particular is for my marketing team to help me market better. And we found that this messaging works better. And then this feedback is for my product team to understand that like, this is a need of our customer that we're just like not meeting yet, or maybe we're doing it incredibly well. Like there is the artifact and then there is the job around it. And I'm just really doggedly trying to point my team towards let's get jobs done, often with a combination of people and teams and the technology.
You want to jump in and build off that, or generally talk about upskilling?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, I'm a pretty like practical type of like things that we have done is I'd say one, it started with our leadership, like just a mandate and saying, hey, one, yes, we want to make our platform, AI embedded, but the second is also we want to make sure that everybody is AI fluent in the organization, right? Like that was part of the big goal. And I'd say Why I say that is because having the executive top-down mandate definitely helps. Then it's also giving them access to the right tools. So we talked, all of us talked about some of the tools. And then the way we're upskilling is like we do grow days where we bring in folks, like we've had somebody from Claude come in to talk about how actually to put in projects, how to do a right code prompt, what does the prompt actually look like, giving us examples. But then we also do like hackathons ourselves, where every month we have a show and tell. I am personally in product marketing responsible for that. So we really just bring examples from people that are using it every day for competitive intelligence, narrative design, for copy, for insights, etc., and able to share their own examples. And I think that is the no fuss way, right? Like 4 to 5 minutes, give us a demo, tell us how you're using it. So it helps to start bring about give people ideas from others that are utilizing as well. But I think back to Ben's point, it's all about the use cases, right? So our month to month, like show and tells are all about what is a specific job you're trying to accomplish, and then how have you done it with AI, and how are you demoing it so everybody else can learn.
Yeah, I would just echo very similar thoughts on this as Nisha. Uh, it is very helpful when it comes from the leadership first. Like that is like, yes, it is critical to be AI fluent. And then it's okay to experiment. And I think those days of just really, to Ben's point, we're on this evolution. At my company, I think maybe people might be a little further along, but then I talk to people that are in more traditional industries and they're like, hey, I'm like really still learning. So it's very dependent on where you are and kind of the environment you're in. Um, I think, we don't have like a dedicated enablement lead, but we do have folks from kind of our central marketing ops and learning that are putting out regular messages around this, that there are here, everybody do your, win of the week, and just really trying to create a dialogue around this. I think it motivates people. We see our leadership sharing examples and showcasing people's works, very regularly in high profile opportunities and cases throughout the company. So you're like, hey, this is great. So and so is going to show your, what your cool thing you figured out, like to this person who you might not normally get access to. So that's been pretty powerful too. And I would say, like, even if you don't have dedicated people, just somebody that to like Nisha, it sounds like the role that you're playing of being able to be like, hey, it's just like, what is this coordination and keeping the communication and so that we can all learn from each other?
That's so good. I took leadership first, obviously, need to invest, experiment, but share. Like you got to share what you learn. And I loved the focus on use cases. By the way, it really has me thinking also about kind of the agentic side of AI. If we've got time, maybe we'll spend a moment there. But yeah, right, moving more towards accomplishing jobs as opposed to yeah, kind of I guess using AI in more point specific ways.
Yeah, and the one other thing I would add to that is like, whatever job you're doing, like just create a habit out of it. Start with AI, right? See how you can do it with AI. Like there's nothing that we try to do now where we are not starting from there. So you're creating that habit as well, is what I'd say. That has proven.
That's great. All right. I want to transition to content development because I think everyone mentioned that at least to some degree. I think in the very beginning, and it's like one of the more obvious ways, right, to use AI. I'd be curious, how do you use AI in content development today? If you could talk a little bit, maybe more specifically about that, and how do you actually make sure it's high quality, consistent, and sounds like your company?
I've seen examples of custom GPTs being implemented inside of companies. GPTs that understand like the company's heritage. It's got all of the previous artifacts. It's got examples of messaging, products that we've shipped. All of this extra context, I think, goes meaningfully towards it both doing a great first draft of something and speeding up that process, but also like catching all the gotchas. There are some specifics in the way we message products. Hey, we use this word, we do not use this word, and the reasoning for that. And that sort of stuff embedded into a custom GPT, or even just like repackaged along if somebody is doing, a monster prompt, being able to like give them artifacts from PMM teams, like our messaging artifact, like is really critically helpful and helps them move that work along much more quickly. And I think that's where, again, we've started thinking about where are those repositories and what should those repositories look like, and how do we surface those up to these tools in a way that like we're reducing all of that manual effort every time of like, hey, I wrote a great narrative and now I want to pass it by the brand team or pass it by the PMM. And instead, what if teams were just doing that like from the beginning and natively everything that they were building out already understood their brand voice, their brand tone, already understood the ins and outs of the specific products that we're talking about. That's, I think, where we're getting to now.
I mean, a huge plus one there to what Ben said, right? It's really about as much as you can put on your brand voice, as much as you can put on like, hey, this is like we put our keynotes on there, for example, and like so AI is understanding what is our style, what is our guide, words we use. We also have a jargon detector custom GPT, which is just like things that we don't want to use, and I think that also helps our AI be trained. But yeah, so it's kind of, and like I said before, we do those Claude projects as well. All of that is again to Ben's point, and like this is how we describe this product innovation. This is how we describe this product innovation, and that's coming as human first. That is absolutely human first being fed into it, and then the content development. I think back to Chandra's very original point, which is that it helps with the remixing of content. Right, you've created one piece, you're trying to create clips off of a podcast. You're trying to create short form, long form. It's a really nice mechanism to accelerate that once you have kind of your base document as well. And that's how we are using it.
Yeah, I just, plus 100 to everything that has been said, as much as we possibly can, putting in all of those details, the brand voice, the understanding our tone, our executive's tone. I think one of the things it has highlighted for me is you kind of can't be a lazy PMM if you want to use AI effectively. And it sounds really like contradictive because you're like, hey, isn't AI supposed to make my life easier? Yes. But you have to have the discipline and rigor to have those things, such as your brand voice, your key messaging, like those things, have a clear understanding of your core assets, which is your intellectual property, documented so that that can actually properly be amplified. I have found like, I've always had, folks on a team just be like, "Well, I'll catch up with that. I'll catch up with that." And I know it's hard, but you're like, there's real value now. You can't get away with it anymore. So, I highlight the importance of that. And I think this concept of we still go through the rigor when you think about like a core asset that maybe then more content is spun off of, we still go through the rigor of making sure it goes through the approvals. It's gotten, our leadership eyes on it. So then feel really good. Like that is the quality check up front to make sure that the spin-off assets are of the right quality and altitude.
That's so good. Really, go ahead, please.
If I can just pick up on that last piece, I think like what I hear, Chandra, it's kind of like it's a lot more. I describe it a lot as like showing our work going into stuff lately. I've been in a meeting where like we're looking at a final artifact together with like an executive team, and a very senior executive like grabs it, throws it in the Claude, and like shows the room and says like, "What about this?" And it's like, "Yeah, dude, of course. Like, yeah, we built this with AI." Like, and I think it's this thing we've gotten past this phase where I think we were all like producing stuff and then for a bunch of reasons, going back and like deleting the end dashes and like sometimes passing it off as like, yeah, look at this beautiful artifact that I built. And I think like we're now past that and we're in the phase where like, of course, everything is being run through some level of AI at somewhere in the process. And so because of that, the importance of showing our work and the importance of pointing to, like, here's what we described as the objective and the key points, or, you know, the communications outcomes that we wanted out of this artifact. And a lot of the time when I'm doing reviews, we're like reviewing that page in combination with the final artifact, because otherwise, like, that's where the daylight begins, is, wait, are we aligned on, like, what does done look like here? Because the words and the syntax of the paragraphs have all been kind of like commoditized at this point. And like, we'll do a great job and we'll have humans look over it at the end. But like, really, do we know exactly what we're trying to do here with this artifact that we're looking at together, and really showing our work on that?
Oh, that's so good. I think both those combined, I mean, the idea that you cannot be a lazy PMM, and actually it is maybe harder in the age of AI, very interesting. And again, like the rigor of documentation, it's not only does it probably benefit the system, like you're training, right? You're in some ways training the system. And that is actually hard. Anyone that's been a manager knows, like, that's a hard job. And it works the same way with AI as well. Okay, I've got one more question. Also, just a note to people listening: if you have questions after this, I'm going to transition to the audience Q&A. So please add them, and then we will get through as many as we can. But on that note, I think it was a great transition. I'd be curious to hear from you all what you think is not changing, or what do you think, yeah, is not changing with PMM jobs in the, advent of AI, or are there skills you think are maybe even more important given, what AI can do? Big question.
I can jump in. It's been kind of my dead horse, I think, so far. But I think the people component of this has just become so incredibly important. To my first point, if AI is like helping you speed you up and you're getting hours back in your day, how are you investing those hours in pursuit of helping the company to tell this story in a better way and understand its customer and its buyers and its products in better ways? Almost none of the time is that sitting in a console. Almost all of that time will be with your teammates. And everyone else is busy too, but everyone else is also seeing some level of efficiency coming out of this. I know my PMs are stoked to have AI capabilities in their PRDs and to use it to summarize like where, sprints are at and coming out of, sprint reviews. So everyone else is seeing some efficiency gain as well, but I think it is still just as important that we are the function that is aligning the rest of the company around what are we building and why are we building it and how are we putting it in our customers' hands. Those three questions, I've never seen it be a case where we're like, yeah, we're done. Like, we know that, and like, it's perfect, and there's no more work to do here. There's almost more work to do in the understanding of who are we building for, and how are we getting across to them, and how are we marketing it in different ways or selling it in more efficient ways. And so, yeah, I think that will, I don't know, maybe it'll go away. I don't think it'll go away anytime soon. I think there's that great quote about, we always overestimate what we can do in a year and we underestimate what we can do in 10. I think in 10 years time, this could all look very, very different. And I don't think any of us really know what it will look like. But at least for this next year, I'm going to call it 3. I think the individual who can drop into meetings and be that expert on those things and help the company come together and be aligned on those topics of what are we building and why are we building it and how are we putting it out there, I don't see that going away.
Yeah, I want to build off of what you started to so eloquently explain, Ben. I've been thinking about this a lot myself, and I haven't been able to articulate it, which is why I was a little nervous to start answering this. This concept of really knowing and owning what are we building and why are we building, and then I'll say, and how to make sure customers, the buyers, understand that. That is the most important thing. And with AI, you know what? I'm actually talking to my PMs more. Like, it's because I have a little bit more time, or I'm kind of saying, hey, does this work? I'm able to like process what our sales team is giving back to me faster. So that that ability to kind of really think through that and deepen your understanding to another critical level, like that is the heart of being a PMM. And all of this change is really like it's challenging. It's a very different way to work. It's new skills, but I'm hopeful that it's bringing us more ability to be at the heart of what it means to be a PMM as opposed to okay, my 60 and 200 character limit, which always takes more time than you want it to take.
Yeah, and I plus one to everything, Ben and Chandra, you've said here. And it's like what I would say is that I think it's actually your personality and what makes you you is actually much more important in this AI age because like if you think about even LLM discoverability and like AEO and things like that, it's like they're catching they are looking for original thought. LLMs are ranking for you what blogs, articles, etc. have original thought, come with deep expertise, are a little quirky, etc. And it's like, so that's actually standing out. So there's like no better time to be a human in all the sea of AI is what I would say. One, so don't be fearful. Relationships is another one. Like I don't think AI is yet at the point where we're taking away relationships or any of that. So it's like that becomes that human to human connection becomes so much more spending more time with their prospects versus getting efficiencies with AI and responding and follow-ups and notes, etc. So I think strategy is more important and not changing, as Chandra and Ben said. Relationships are even more important. Your personality is shining out. I think go to market and how you actually put that all together. It can help with the tactics, but it's not really stringing together the whole go to market approach. Yeah.
Ooh, all right, a lot to chew on there. I will now go to questions from the audience. And sorry, one other thing. I think you also everyone, you can also thumbs up stuff if you see a question that you really want answered. So first question from Clay in San Francisco. How do you guard against privacy risks of your proprietary data? Do you have custom LLMs behind a firewall, or are there other ways you think about privacy? And I'm Nisha, I know you talked a little bit about this, or Dropbox. I mean, I'm sure both of you have a lot to say about privacy.
I'll do a quick one here. I think like this is a problem I think we understood pretty quickly is you start to provide this extra context to these tools, and very quickly you find that there's a level of discoverability that maybe you hadn't anticipated across your file system. So maybe you have Confluence pages that are not as locked down as you might have hoped they had been. And so obviously I think we're seeing a lot of vendors like Dropbox provide both of those things together. And so it is, how do I include that context and open up these repos and add all this documentation and make it discoverable, but how do I also protect it and control it? And I think that's something everybody is rolling out now at different levels of scale. And so yes, of course, like I'm sure Salesforce has a very strong answer there, and for much smaller organizations and even for individuals, you're starting to see that show up in vendors like Dropbox as well.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh.
Yeah, I was just going to say this is absolutely correct. I mean, the problem was very quickly identified. And, we are very conscious about the tools we use, what's, really like what's being with the zero copy strategy. What are those things? This is, big company scale, but like the vendors and the providers are getting that too. So I think it's just important to be, if you're at a smaller organization or doing this on your own, ask the question, what are they doing to ensure? Because they should be able to answer that. And if they can't answer it, then I'm going to be like, okay, that might tell you something right there.
Yeah, that's an easy way to figure out which tools to ignore. Okay, how about I'll move on to make sure we answer a couple more questions. So from Marina, how can you best use AI for competitive research and positioning in enterprise SaaS? But I guess most of your all companies are enterprise SaaS, but generally, where marketing websites and public facing info is not reliable and needs industry know-how to read between the lines. So Yeah, yeah. How do you use it for competitive research and thinking about, how you relate to your competitors?
I really like this use case. I think it was one of the first ones that it's one of the people in my team shared in like our repo of use cases. They recorded this great loom and just showed them kind of like backtracking to a PMM on a bunch of like competitive websites and asking the LLM to like review a bunch of like customer facing examples of messaging and try to come back to like, what do we think that competitor thinks are their like key value propositions and their differentiators? What do they talk about more than maybe some others? And then that turned up into like this really cool and interesting like heat map across that competitive landscape. And of course it's not perfect, and of course you're kind of making it up, but like this is a really great signal. Like it's the words that a company is taking a lot of time to think about and put out there, and it's a very viable signal of what they think is differentiating or what they think is important to their customer. And so like you'd be crazy to not take that as some level of input. It's a what is it? It's one thing to like create. It's very okay to just sometimes borrow and seek inspiration in how other people are doing things. So I actually think it's a great use case for that.
One of the things we're doing is that with Gong integration, it's really actually easy for us to understand when a prospect is talking about, because very often they are in a buying cycle and they're talking about you versus other competitors they evaluate not. So it's easy actually in that use case for AI to synthesize calls, where we've won deals, where we've lost deals. We have win losses as well, and kind of take that and say, hey, here's actually what prospects are saying, or here's actually what customers are saying when we won a deal, when you've lost a deal, what are the actual like reactions and expressions. So it's actually been a fantastic way there to take hundreds and thousands of calls and synthesize that information into real data points.
Love that. Uh, Two really cool examples in terms of the synthesis and then also the competitive research there on the different websites. Sounds like a great loom. So, all right, next question. What questions about AI do you ask when you're the hiring manager for a PMM role these days? Because it's a great question.
I'll jump in on that one because I think it is as there are two things. One, I like to get a sense of how are you using AI today? Just in general, don't give me anything proprietary, but like just how are you using it? It just shows to me like an understanding, interest in investment, do that like relative to their job, but then also personally. Um, the other thing I ask them is I was like, how did you use AI to help you prepare for our conversations? Kind of an intellectual kind of curiosity around that and what you might learn and how can you quickly go through that. So both of those have been kind of ways to just start exploring around, you know, uh, AI interest, I guess, or AI curiosity is the better word.
Same. I would say same as Chandra, but it's also like I'm looking to hear what tools are you using, what is part of becoming part of daily workflow. Like it's very apparent when somebody is used and utilizing in their comfort level and they can cite different things. I always look to learn from the candidate as well. I'm right now hiring for a senior product marketer on the team. And you'll see some of the candidates are introducing me to tools like, hey, we're using Lovable here, or we're using, something else there. So I'm also just keep in mind, we're also looking to learn as we go through the process. So it's really interesting when it can have a fresh perspective or like even shares their unique point of view and like what they're using, what's giving them value. So it's definitely a question. Embrace it is what I would say.
I love this part of interviews. I think it's one of the it's a part where like you see people who love the craft really show up in a really great way, and like this is the time when we talked about it. It is difficult, yes, we know, but like this is such a time of reinvention for what we do, and for the folks who like are really into this and are not just like looking for another job, they light up when they start to talk about this. When you ask them this question of what tools must you have when you arrive here? What have been some of your killer use cases? You see their passion for the craft show up, and I think that for me is always something I try to tap into in an interview process. But it's also just such a lovely reflection to have in amongst 10 hours of back-to-back meetings in a day. If you're having an interview and you're seeing somebody light up and talking about creating something or talking about reinventing something or just talking about some level of joy they took out of the job, I think it's selfishly something I just love to get out of an interview.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. These are all great examples. And I loved the point about also just everyone I think actually said this, you're not shying away from it, right? It's, actually this will be a part of the conversation and a way to kind of highlight again, kind of what differentiates you. I guess last question here, I think we've talked about this a little bit, but maybe one more time. Are there any AI tools you find are driving efficiency with your go-to-market strategy or execution? And I know Ben and everyone kind of talked about use cases a little bit earlier, and maybe if there's anything like, I don't know, maybe is there anything use case specific that you all have or feel like you job specific that you use? If not, it's okay, but I might have made the question harder. But if there is anything you're using in go-to-market, maybe besides content.
There's a few, like Asana. Asana is an example of a tool that is like it helps with go-to-market efficiency. We use Asana Companion, where on a monthly basis now, Asana is actually, if you keep your milestones updated, it's actually updating your like monthly, weekly, whatever your cadence is on notes are, sending out to everybody. You can create a workflow based off of that. So you're no longer in a project management situation having to keep updated on the milestones. Like AI is doing that for you. That's one I can think of. I recently also use, and shout out to Andrea, you and the Slack team, I use the Slack summaries quite a fair bit. Because you'll come back, like even from an hour long, like taking off from share to the ShareBird thing, you come back to so many conversations in Slack, right? So just like summarize it for me. That's driving efficiency. Those are some examples that come to mind.
I'll jump in, and it's funny. I didn't even think about this at first, but then I had to chuckle because this product is in my remit as a product marketer. So we have an agentic coaching technology, and one of the things that we are, it's been so interesting to work on that and see the traction. But one of the things that it's really gotten some good feedback on is like certifying on specific use cases with new messaging. And, I had to laugh as I was enabling our sales team on this technology. And I was like, the great use cases you're talking to your customers is that when you're learning new messaging, when you have to go to market with this, and like maybe messaging changes all the time. And I was like, well, we never do that to you. And every seller was like, all the emojis were coming through. Because of that AI and that kind of coaching technology, you could just very quickly practice, and that you could say, okay, you've run that through, you've gotten a score, you can give the feedback, show that to your manager. And that's been powerful too, because it's so much more scalable to just practice 10 times and get feedback on it.
Oh, that's so good. Ben, you want to do last 1 minute? Yeah.
Yeah. Meetings. We have too many of them. Everybody does. And it's why I love Loom, and I really love Loom summaries. I like, we used to have this thing in Atlassian where it was kind of like, oh, that, the meeting could have been an email. The email could have been a Loom, which might take it down to like a 1 minute actually engaging artifact that I can give feedback to and comment in. But then the Loom can also just become this like very rich update that I can get a summary of and then dig in, or usually like give me the teaser that I want to actually go see somebody talk about this topic, or I want to add a comment back to it, as a way to, particularly for GTM people who just, 8 to 10 hours of meetings a day. I don't know when we actually get anything done. Anything that helps us to lower the load on that and create artifacts that transfer knowledge more efficiently than like me calling 12 people. I think those are huge unlocks for a GTM team.
Okay, this is all so good. And there's so many practical things. And it's a reminder that, by the way, GTM is not just docs, or not just what you see at the end. It's a lot of project management and execution and little stuff along the way that AI can really help with. So this has been a ton of fun. Again, this is such an evolving space. I just learned a ton in an hour. We could do another hour, I'm sure. I'm sure we'll try to book that. But thank you. Thank you all so much. And I will hand this back to Heather.
Thank you, guys. Thank you to our panel and our moderator. We work hard to curate the best product marketing mentors for you to learn from, including the people on this panel. When you're ready for your next job, I recommend looking for jobs on their teams. If you had a question that wasn't answered today, you can search thousands of answered on sharebird.com or ask it on an upcoming Sharebird AMA. As a reminder, our next event is on October 23rd on Mastering Storytelling. You can register for that event at the link in the chat. Lastly, if you have any questions or feedback for us, please email us at events@sharebird.com. Thank you so much, everyone.